Hey, how's it going everyone? Pogo Science here. Thank you so much you guys for stopping on by. I have a very special video today. We're going to go ahead and share 21 tips on how to hit master rank in Pokemon Unite, you guys. If you're stopping by the channel for the very first time, perhaps you just picked up your phone and saw the game was released. Welcome to the game. Hopefully you enjoy it. I'm here to show you guys 21 amazing tips to get to master rank as soon as possible, you guys, so you can speed run your way through it. So if you enjoy this video at the very end, please consider dropping a like and a subscription to the channel. It's free and I would help out the Pogo Science channel so much, you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with tip number 1, you guys. Research the Pokemon that you are playing. This seems pretty simple enough, but it's very important to know what moves you're running, which moveset is best, and on top of it, also knowing which levels you need to obtain before you can reach a certain move. Like, for example, this Venusaur you see, there's certain levels where you can hit Sludge Bomb, there's a certain level where you hit Solar Beam. So knowing when that's going to happen is very huge, because sometimes all you need to do is just get a couple more XP points to move up to the next level, which will be a huge game changer for your Pokemon. Tip number 2, you guys, having a balanced team. Make sure your team is as balanced as possible. Sometimes your teammates are not in tune with that, so you're going to have to be the decider with which Pokemon is necessary to fill up the slot that's remaining, you guys. So as you see, sometimes there's no tanks. I don't have a tank on my team, unfortunately. I try my best, but sometimes you can't get a tank all the time. So sometimes you have to sacrifice your own play to add a tank to your team. So be aware of that. Tip number 3, you guys, understanding the clock. You guys, the game is 10 minutes long, but the wild Pokemon always come at a certain time. So all the wild Pokemon, DREDNAW, Rotom, ZAPDOS, all these Pokemon come at a certain time. They don't come at a specific time during the game, aside from perhaps ZAPDOS and the first Rotom and DREDNAW. But after you kill a wild Pokemon, they will reappear after a certain amount of time. So be aware of when they'll be coming back, and then you can be there and get the farm before your opponent can. Tip number 4, you guys, stealing farm while we're on farm, you guys. This is very huge. At the very start of each game, you will notice that there's going to be some neutral farms, Pokemon that are kind of halfway between your side, halfway between the opponent's side. So making sure you get those core fishes, making sure you get the Audinos early. Ranking up early is very huge, you guys, because like we mentioned earlier, getting to that first move first before your opponent can, leveling up, and getting to the special move like Solar Beam, Sludge Bomb could be a huge game changer. Tip number 5, DREDNAW is huge, you guys. DREDNAW will appear at the bottom of your map, you guys. I highly suggest being there around 7 minutes and 20 seconds, because DREDNAW will appear exactly at the 7-minute mark, the very first DREDNAW. And getting DREDNAW will give all your teammates XP and a shield. So also killing the bottom goal is very important to help you secure DREDNAW. So keep in mind that you should definitely rotate bottom, even if it means leaving top unguarded. Is worth the risk, you guys. Tip number 6, you guys, understand your role. So making sure you know who you're playing. If you're a defender, make sure you're defending your opponent. So that means you're gonna have to be in front of the front line of your team and taking all the hits. And that might be counterintuitive, taking all these hits instead of trying to dodge. But sometimes it's a matter of taking hits, you guys, so your teammates can survive and also do the damage in the back. Next tip number 7, practice makes perfect. So making sure you play with the same Pokemon consistently. I'll tell you guys, I played with Mr. Mime over 200 times, and I play rank only 250 times. So actually a little backstory, you guys. I did reach master rank myself, even though this video is an old video of me playing in Ultra. I got to masters in 250 games, and about 200 games I probably played with Mr. Mime, because I really got really comfortable with it and did really well. So practice does make perfect. Tip number 8. Scoring gives you XP, it gives you HP, and it gives you immunity. So remember those 3 things. Even if all you have is 1 ball, you might be thinking, 1 ball, what's that really going to do? That 1 ball that you're trying to score will actually be a pretty big difference maker, because you also get the immunity, so your opponent can't hit you while you're scoring. And sometimes that's a matter of life or death right there. Tip number 9, learn skills. You'll learn skills a lot faster if you play in solo queue, you guys. Just so you guys know, I think dueling is very huge, but solo queue will actually teach you all the traits you need to become a Pokemon master, literally, because you're going to have to rely on yourself a lot during these solo matches. Next tip number 10, cutting off the hands to save the arm. So sometimes when you're playing in these solo queue matches, you'll notice that your teammates may be doing something that's a little bit risky, putting themselves in danger. Sometimes if you can tell that your teammate can't be saved, don't try it, you guys. Just go ahead and run away. No harsh feelings on their end. And vice versa. If you're in trouble, hopefully your teammate will not try to save you, because sometimes you have to sacrifice a teammate to save the lane, to make sure your opponent doesn't try to score, make sure your opponent doesn't take all the farm. So sometimes it's just a matter of retreating, and there's no loss in integrity if you ditch your teammate. Tip number 11, you guys, make sure you're comfortable when you're playing to have at least one defender, one tank, and one rounder in your arsenal. So if the Pokemon that you really like playing, like for me, Mr. Mime, if that's taken, or maybe someone else is already playing support, I definitely have to be comfortable playing a tank or all-rounder or an attacker, just so that we have a balanced team. That's one of the tips we mentioned earlier. It's very important to be as balanced as possible. Tip number 12, you guys, killing Rotom from the 2:20 remaining mark to the 2-minute mark is very, very important, because if you can kill it, you can perhaps score double points, and it's almost like what I like to call a second ZAPDOS, because your opponent will have to focus a lot on trying to make sure the Rotom doesn't reach the goal, because if the Rotom reaches the goal, you can actually score instantly as soon as you get to the goal. So they have to spend all that time inside of 2 minutes trying to stop it instead of trying to score. And while you're doing that, you can probably maybe threaten bottom to score. Maybe you can start on ZAPDOS. It's a very huge thing, you guys, killing Rotom late game. Tip number 13, consume as much knowledge as possible. You click on this video, you already know this tip, so you probably don't even need, you can probably speed right through this one. Making sure you watch as many YouTubers as possible, Twitch streamers. Playing the game, of course, yourself will gain you a lot of experience. But if you happen to play in a game where there's voice chat, take any criticism as kind of a learning experience. Try not to be too close-minded. Oftentimes, teammates are just trying to help and give you advice on little things they might have noticed in your game. So try not to make everything personal, and just try to grow as much as possible. Tip number 14, don't ever give up too early. This is very huge, you guys, because a lot of people tend to hit that vote button to surrender, and they're probably only down like 150 points, and that's really nothing considering the last 2 minutes. Anything can really happen. I've seen people score 500 points in the last 2 minutes before. So don't give up too early. I try to make a rule of thumb to never give up until ZAPDOS is decided. Next tip. Tip number 15, don't let a tough loss spill over to the next game. This is very crucial, because you will have losing streaks. If you hit Masters, you can't hit it without having some bumps in the road. So if you have a tough game where maybe your team had a huge lead and then blew it because the opposition took ZAPDOS, or you had a tough game where at the very end you lose by 10 points or less, don't let it spill over to the next game. Keep playing the same game that you're playing, you guys. Be as open-minded to your teammates as much as possible. Help them out. Try not to be over-aggressive. Play the same style that got you to where you are. And then the next tip, tip number 16, only play when you want, you guys. This game should be about having fun, so you shouldn't feel like you're forced to play just for like all the dailies, or you're forced to play because you see all your friends are ranking up and you want to be able to rank up with them. Play when you're ready, you guys, because when you play while you're tired, or you're not prepared, or not in a very good environment, it can be catastrophic to your rank. So make sure that you're playing when you're comfortable as well. Tip number 17, you guys, buddy barrier and score shields are your friends. So I highly suggest for anyone that's starting to maybe consider getting score shield as soon as possible. Same with buddy barrier. Buddy barrier is huge for the late game. As you see, the end game is so important, taking ZAPDOS. So buddy barrier essentially gives you a shield each time you use your ultimate, and it gives the teammate with the lowest HP closest to you a shield as well. So it's very huge for the late game. And score shield is just so good at protecting you while you're scoring. Must have on your items. So tip number 18, you guys, don't use your ultimate inside of 3.5 minutes remaining, because it's very difficult to get the ultimate back in time for a ZAPDOS melee. So I make it a rule of thumb to try my best to not use the ultimate. Even if it means going down and dying, it's more important to have your ultimate ready. And on the converse, see if you can bait your opponent to use their ultimate. That's very huge as well. If you can see that they use their ultimate, that's very valuable information for the late game. Tip number 19, have a lot of balls to threaten the late game. This is a strategy I personally like a lot, trying to have 50 points before the 2-minute mark, because if people can see that you have 50 points, they have to keep an eye out on you. So you can oftentimes T's taking a goal top or bottom while your teammates are trying to take ZAPDOS, it really kind of drags their attention away. It's very important to always have 50, and in the unfortunate likelihood that you may lose ZAPDOS, it could be very important that you counter score. And we'll talk about that actually pretty soon as well. Tip number 20, you guys, understanding if you should be defending or scoring, you guys. This is kind of a tough one to understand, but understanding what the score is at all times is huge. You get notified pretty much every minute or two, I believe. So having a good sense of where your team is at is huge. And especially towards the late game, if you're up a lot of points, know that all you have to do is defend your goals and defend ZAPDOS. So there's no need to push and trying to score and then end up sacrificing your own goal or sacrificing ZAPDOS. Making sure you understand where you are in the game and adjusting your play style to the score, because that's very, very important. And then the last one is if you lose ZAPDOS, and this is a tip number 21, by the way. If you lose ZAPDOS, it's fine. I mean, it sucks oftentimes, but it doesn't mean the end of the game. So still try to play it out, especially if you're ahead when you lost ZAPDOS. What I like to do is first try to kill as many enemies as possible. You're not going to get all of them, but if you kill an enemy, they obviously can't score, right? And then whatever enemies you can't kill, try to score immediately. Go to the opposite end. Your opponents are going to score. You're not going to be able to stop them because all the goals are defenseless. So might as well score on the other end. They're not going to be able to catch up to you, and try to get as many of those points to counter your opposition, right? And that kind of goes back to that first one of the tips I mentioned earlier, where it was having 50 points, right? Because if you have 50 points, then you know you can cancel out one of your opponents no matter what. You're going to cancel out their score. So if you have enough people with 50 points countering scoring on the other end, you can cancel out losing ZAPDOS. So there you go, guys. 21 tips to hit masters as soon as possible. I did it in about 250 games. I did it free to play. I did it probably around 80% of my games were solo queue. So, and I guess roughly it took me about maybe less than 3 months, just because I was only playing maybe 3 to 4 games a day, because one of my tips earlier was making sure you only play when you're ready to play and when you want to play, and I took that to heart. So I didn't want to just play 5-6 hours a day. So you definitely can do it, you guys, and hopefully these 21 tips help you out. I'll be making a lot more videos for this launch of Pokemon Unite on mobile coming out on Wednesday. So if you guys definitely enjoy these Pokemon Unite tips, please consider dropping a like, comment, subscribe to Poke Science. And hopefully I'll catch you guys all during my next video. Take care, everyone.